Be honest, have you ever wondered what it feels like to be inside of a gamer from the 90s? Nostalgia is a really fascinating thing, because people will look you straight in the eye before telling you that gaming peaked with some random piece of shovelware they just so happened to play when they were both younger and happier, and I love old people, which sometimes makes me wonder, is there a bit more to it than just nostalgia? What did gaming really feel like when you got home from hunting and gathering? Now, I was born during the life cycle of the PS2 and did not get into gaming up until much later, but for quite some time now I have wanted to go back, so to say, and explore the eras of gaming which I personally never got to experience, but always wanted to get at least a tiny little taste of. To me, that's specifically the original PlayStation. Especially after Astrobot made me understand just how many games have been around back then. Honestly, walking through the Astrobot crash site feels like walking through a museum about animals which humanity has hunted into extinction. So I decided to go on a bit of an expedition and explore the long-lost land of the original PlayStation and then document my journey in the form of a YouTube video, one of the great joys modern life has to offer. Now, I could just go and play the games which still get talked about today, call this the greatest generation in gaming and then go back again, but that is not what we are trying to achieve here. I do not want to browse the past with modern day knowledge. Instead, I think it's way more interesting and honestly necessary for answering the question at hand to try and get a bit of a feeling for how gaming was like for your completely average bloke. I want to go out of my way to try and as accurately as possible recreate the gaming library of a random PlayStation owner from the mid-90s. Some casual gamer who may or may not have actually existed. And I know that I will not be able to do that 100% historically accurate, but I will try to do my best in selecting which games to play. It will most likely be similar to these outdoor reenactment museums in which they aim to give you a feeling of how life was like for Columbus after he landed in Massachusetts and learned how to eat pumpkins, or something like that. Americans will understand that analogy. And with that being said, I invite you to come with me. Welcome to Old Think Good? Question mark? For all of this, we will need to employ the help of a long-lost family member of mine. Let's fire up the old Super Slim and enter its built-in time machine, the still active PlayStation 3 online store, so we can make it to our starting point. And our starting point will be a little fool who I have a bit of a personal history with. At some point in the early 2000s, there was this exact advert running on TV. It was for McDonald's Happy Meal toys, these little LCD games featuring the characters seen on screen. For the longest time, those images were stored away somewhere in the back of my brain, and only many years later, when I was watching Uncharted cutscenes on YouTube because I could not afford the game with my pocket money, but I still wanted to know what was going on, I could not believe my eyes. It's the thing they put in the Happy Meal LCD toy, and apparently the thing did have a name. Crash Bandicoot, developed by a studio called Nate Dogg and released in 1996 during the same week as the tragic passing of Tupac Shakur. This is not a joke, look it up. And after all these years of him being somewhere in the back of my brain and me vaguely associating him with the concept of getting a Happy Meal on the way to my grandparents, I shall choose this Dorito-inspired creature to be the starting point of our journey. The first impression I get of this orange fella, just based on the game cover art, fits pretty well with the impression I got from the old advert. An edgy, brash and rash, I run against walls in my free time type of guy, the personification of a Dorito, really. Albeit very atypical of a ginger. But now that I am seeing him live in Polygon, he just seems confused and slightly scared, to be honest. He did scream uncontrollably after he saw a small paragraph of written text approach him after all. By waiting on the main screen, a cutscene will trigger automatically after a while, filling us in on what we have at our hands here. Apparently, we are a genetically enhanced creature of Australian wildlife, which malfunctioned, and now we have to save our furry GF from the fangs of a mad scientist and Andrew Tate. Eventually, we wash up on the shores of New South Wales. Truly a fate worse than death. And that's how our journey starts. I do like the fact that the plot is kept rather simple, just keeping it to the average day-to-day life in Australia really. We come from a land down under, where women wear fursuits and men are bald. Now for the actual gaming in this game, it is a simple mascot platformer with some running, jumping and spinning around. This is where it gets tricky though, because only running, jumping and spinning around is gonna get you similar results here as it would give you in the real world. Death, but without any insurance money. As you see, something you will learn soon enough is the natural enemy of the Bandicoot is the world around it. I never wanted to be a rodent. And the more I learn about Crash, the more I pity this creature. I mean, the touch of a turtle sends him to the afterlife. The concept of crustaceans is endangering to him, and even boulders are actively trying to hunt him down. And gravity? Don't get me started on gravity. But inside of stages you will be able to find these boneless pizza masks. They will provide you with protection from all of the dangerous obstacles we just mentioned. That's a lie, it does not protect you from gravity. Nothing protects you from gravity. This is especially fun when you collect 3 masks and turn into a boneless pizza bionicle superpower up and then just run into a hole because you misjudged your newly acquired speed boost. To whoever came up with the idea of an endless dark void, thanks for nothing. The obstacles in this game are not gonna give you as much trouble, however, as what I can only refer to as its quality of unalive features. Your spinning attack, for example, can not only spin away enemies, it can also spin away loot, which is not that horrible when it comes to the generic fruit lying around, but it gets rather upsetting when you accidentally spin away a mask, or even worse, a token necessary to access a bonus level. Yes, this can and will happen. Those tokens seem to be especially fragile, as you can also accidentally blow them up by triggering TNT boxes, thus making the bonus level inaccessible for that run, thus making it impossible to get 100% completion on a stage without restarting it. That on its own does not sound that horrible until you realize how you save your progress in this game, by getting 100% completion on a stage without dying. Doing that gives you a gem and unlocks a save point. Also, Crash will be doing what you are looking at right now. How do you make a ginger nut? By giving it a gem, apparently. That's one way. The other way is to unlock a bonus level and completing it without dying once, of course. That's right, the only way to get a save point in Crash Bandicoot is to either find a gem or find a girlfriend. Depending on who you are, you will find one of those to be way more difficult than the other. Also, once you have used up a save point, you cannot use it again. But really, you should not worry about any of that too much, because saving your progress is almost worthless anyways. And this is where it gets really funny, because you see, at one point I grinded up to about 25 lives in the early stages of the game, and then unlocked the gem in the pig riding level so that I could get a nice save file with many saved up lives right in front of a rather difficult level. Native Fortress, as it was getting rather late and I quite like my sleeping schedule. Alas, the next time I booted up the game, I saw that I had lost my unlock of the pig riding level, not allowing me to go directly to the fortress, and that I had only 4 lives left. At first I thought that my save file was corrupt or that there was a bug in the PS3 version of the game maybe, but after a bit of research I found out this is not a bug. It's a feature. The game is supposed to be doing this. Every time you load one of the limited amount of save files you are allowed to have, you get punished, as your lives get hard reset to 4 and you lose a bit of your level progress. You should have seen the look on my face. This goes beyond quality of unalive features and crosses into the territory of LOL features. Whoever designed this game most definitely had a lot of trust in the indomitable human spirit. All of that being said, none of this supposed pain really felt painful. It almost felt soothing, even welcoming. Is this what Souls-like players feel all the time? The gameplay loop in Crash Bandicoot is very satisfying. The structure of the stages will give you many cooldown moments, allowing you to watch the patterns of enemies and moving objects, strategize and wait for the right moment, unironically giving it quite a bit of depth. Despite the protagonist being a rash and bash guy named Crash, more than anything, this game is about patience. Because of which the payoff of succeeding feels way more rewarding. Really, seeing Crash cross the finish line with a smile and doing that will give you even more satisfaction than what he is feeling right there. And failure, of course, will make you feel things too. At multiple occasions, I made very vocal complaints to my console. Without realizing it, I had gotten quite hooked to this simple mascot platformer with some running, jumping and spinning around. Although this is actually not the first rodent I have ever gotten emotionally attached to. It's a long story. But hey, will I ever make it out of the first island and finish the game? Patience. Subscribe to the channel for this incredible callback joke. As it turns out, Crash Bandicoot is quite a bit more than just the thing they put in the Happy Meal LCD toy. Speaking of which, a bit of research has led me to find out that our dear Dorito here was a bit of a mascot for the original PlayStation itself. It seems like we have accidentally made the right choice by starting with a game that important to PS1 lore.
Hey, plumber boy, mustache man, your worst nightmare has arrived.
Albeit I don't really understand why you would have a personal vendetta against blue-collar workers with facial hair.
Is that Italian?
No, Bandicoot, it's an Australian name.
Must be an Australian thing then. But cultural phenomena aside, his usage in commercials has led me to discover how we are going to continue our journey.
So anyway, I'm playing Jet Moto, right? And I'm riding on this jet motorcycle, and I'm hurtling through different terrains. Snow, concrete, ocean, jungle. I mean, when you got that kind of power between your legs, you don't know what to expect. Anything could happen.
Jet Moto it is then, released in 1996 by a studio called Single Track. Never heard of this game, but if Crash Bandicoot tells a bunch of random strangers in a foreign country about it, it has to be perfect. Or well, if Sony at the time was promoting the game using its household rodent, then getting it defo seems like the next step to take in our expedition. After all, buying a game because the console company was promoting it as their flagship title seems super accurate for what we are trying to achieve. So, let's fire up the old Super Slim, and yes, it was on the still active PlayStation 3 online store. Now for the very first thing I noticed, Mountain Dew. It seems like we really are going from playing as a Dorito to playing as a Mountain Dew. This might just be the most gamer I have felt in my entire life. Alas, sadly, this is not a Mountain Dew simulator. It's a non-car racing game, with Mountain Dew being one of the team sponsors. Jet Moto comes with a wide selection of characters split up across multiple teams, each one sponsored by an actual real-world company. I know that because I had to look some of those names up. Mountain Dew is of course Mountain Dew, K2 is K2 Sports, which does cater to sports, Butterfinger is both a candy bar and a Malaysian rock band, and Axiom is a bit of a difficult one. Apparently Axiom stands for, as I found out, Axiom Designs, a company that worked on some of the art for this game. The other options would be an Indian aerospace company or a Spanish professional wrestler, which certainly would have been quite interesting. The actual racers in every team seem to be named after certain qualities or traits, like the Technician, Wild Ride or the Max, whose real name is of course Mark. But enough of this, let's get into the actual gaming in this game. I just picked the first Mountain Dew woman that the character selection offered me, last name Dakota, first name South. And I got destroyed. It's not even funny, and I will not expand on this point. Also, the local tree population hates me for some reason. With South Dakota having Mountain Dew flavored tears running down her face after just being embarrassed in front of her fellow polygons, I looked at the game's manual. That is something that I had probably not done since the last recession. The manual was very thorough in not only explaining all of the different controls but also the game's mechanics. Jet Moto runs in what they call the True Physics Engine TM. Using the D-pad you can tilt your vehicle into all types of directions in order to, for example, gain speed when you go down after a jump, or in order to hit waves in the correct angle to not lose any speed. On top of that, you have to take things like the surface you are riding and even the weight of your vehicle into account. All of these things influence how fast you are, how well you can handle your vehicle, and ultimately in which place you finish the race. You also get a grappling hook made out of red energy, which allows you to easily take corners. Just hitting accelerate and hoping for the best is gonna get you similar results here as it would get you in the real world. Death, but without any insurance money. It seems like the entire gameplay experience is really centered around the idea of here is this world which realistically simulates all of the environments. Now go and bend gravity to your will. Somebody should tell the mask from Crash Bandicoot about this. I must say that I am surprised. I thought I was gonna be greeted by a very arcadey experience, you just hop into a race and go, and while that is technically true, there's a lot more to this cheeky game. While it's easy to get into, it's genuinely hard to master. Equipped with all of this new knowledge, and after lowering the game's difficulty, South Dakota and I managed to slowly achieve some success. On the first map, that is. Once we decided to move on to another track, it felt like I had to relearn everything. Each map is widely different to each other, and honestly, it is almost necessary to be rather familiar with each individual map in order to do well, because genuinely the trees are filled with hatred. And this is where I have to be honest with you people, because I am not gonna sit here and pretend that I love everything. Even after figuring out the gameplay, I did not enjoy this game as much as I assume many others did. I can absolutely appreciate the game for what it is, and I do see how this must have blown people's minds, but I am not people. I do not think that I will be returning to this game in my free time. Maybe I will one day give it a proper ding-dang-do. But hey, if anything, buying a game based on a commercial and then not 100% enjoying it seems super accurate. I certainly remember that from back when I was a youngling. That's just how it is with games sometimes. Crash Bandicoot immediately touched me in ways I did not expect him to. Jet Moto just did not. For now, I think we should go and take a look at what the Dorito will be shouting into his megaphone next.
Would you rather be playing hockey than working in this office building? You know that NHL FaceOff 97 was rated best hockey game by EGM. Realistic give and goes and one-timers with icon passes. Let's work for hockey!
Yes, after playing one of the first ever 3D platformers and a non-car racing game with True Physics TM, we will now play a sports simulator. NHL FaceOff 97, made by Killer Game in 1996, a studio with no Wikipedia article. But hey, if it's actually one of the rodent-promoted flagship titles Sony put in front of us, then I am looking forward to the experience, even though I know nothing about basketball. Now, this one was not on the still active PlayStation 3 online store, I assume due to expired licenses for real-world teams and players. Part of me wanted to say what a shame and move on, but that would not have been accurate to what we are trying to achieve with this. So I had to resort to drastic measures. Lo and behold, ladies and gentlemen, the first physical PS1 game I have ever owned. NHL FaceOff 97. This might be the most non-gamer I have felt in my entire life. Anyway, let's fire up the old Super Slim, which, as every other PS3 model out there, is of course capable of playing physical PS1 games. Now, I will be honest with you humans, I don't know anything about American football, but what I do know is that this is the coolest CG intro I have seen on this side of the Mississippi River. Makes me feel like I have thrown a touchdown just by being here. And here we go. I selected a team and went into the actual gaming. One thing that will immediately stick out is the soundscapes. There is a limited amount of sound effects which just replay over and over. There is no music, which is actually kind of sad, but there is also no commentary, which at first took me a bit off guard, but realistically should not surprise me too much. Having proper in-game commentary might have been a bit too much for just one compact disc. But hey, every time a home run gets hit, police sirens can be heard. I'm curious whether that's the case in real-world baseball as well. You can probably tell that I am scraping the bottom of the barrel with this commentary. This actually is just a sports simulator. You genuinely just play the matches. I think that I am having a good time with this, although I am not too sure whether I am proud of this being my first ever physical PS1 game. It is interesting, however, how this genuinely just follows the formula of sports simulators we are seeing to this day. It definitely falls into the category of games going for the proper realistic route, instead of aiming for a silly arcade style with power-ups and special abilities. At least there were no microtransactions that I had to go through in order to get to the gameplay. No, I do not regret getting NHL FaceOff 97 at all. Actually, I imagine there were quite a few gamers in that era who wanted to get into this whole PlayStation thing, but didn't really know what games to get, so they just got a sports simulator because they were familiar with the real sport, and they were probably intrigued to find out just how similar it is to the real thing and whatnot. I do hope, however, that you are okay with me keeping this game's segment rather short, as I am afraid that I am not going to be spending 10 minutes talking about ice skating with a walking stick. Let's instead watch our beloved rodent do what he is best at: trespassing.
According to my research, you're in the market for a new game system.
Yes?
Are you aware, Mr. Feldman, that Sony's PlayStation has over 200 games?
No?
NHL FaceOff 97, Jet Moto, Toval number 1, Destruction Derby 2, Crash Bandicoot.
I could go on.
I'm gonna come down there and kick your ass.
You got any battery cables? I'm having a little trouble with my truck.
Let's see what we are working with here. Tobil number 1. I looked up this title. It is a fighting game with a 3D roguelike dungeon crawler quest mode with RPG elements, in which every roguelike encounter is a fighting game fight. The game was designed by people who previously worked on Tekken and Virtua Fighter, and every single character was designed by Dragon Ball creator Akira Toriyama himself. I want to play Destruction Derby 2 because it has a cool name and cover art. Now, evidently this seems to be the second installment in a series, and after a bit of research I can indeed confirm that this is the second installment in a series, the Destruction Derby series. It follows right after the first game in the series, Destruction Derby, which, from what I can tell, was actually quite a big deal in the early days of the PlayStation, with both great sales and great reviews. The first game was in fact available on the still active PlayStation 3 online store, the second one was not. The temptation definitely was there to just play the first game and make it a lot easier for myself, but Crash advertised the second one, and we are far too deep in now. Lo and behold, the second physical PS1 game I have ever owned. And it is a car game, made by a studio called Reflections Interactive and released in 1996. But this is not a car racing game, it is a car racing game with vehicular combat. As for expectations, I expect this game to be something like the bastard child of NASCAR and the UFC. I expect a lot of ramming until only one guy is still standing. But who knows, maybe it will be more complex than that. I did not expect Jet Moto to be what it was after all. Let's fire up the old Super Slim. After booting up the game, we get greeted by what appears to be an owl trying to threaten me, but the owl becomes a wheel and we get to see yet again a very cool 3D intro. And with Goodyear, there is yet another real-world company involved in this. The main menu music is astoundingly epic. rookie, amateur and pro. Whoever names their children that is a horrible person. I went straight into stock car, and my word, I had the time of my life. I enjoyed this experience way more than I thought I would. Cars will be flipping over, push each other into obstacles, shattering into bits and pieces, and all throughout a very varied selection of tracks. Honestly, if real-world motorsports were anything like this, I probably would still not be watching, but I would definitely check out some of the highlights every now and then. And I enjoyed all of this despite not really having that much success. I, for example, had a lot of trouble in dealing with The Undertaker, but at least I did beat people like a learner driver. I also did hit over 200 miles per hour, so I am just happy to be still talking to you. I did go ahead and did an entire series of races in this mode, and I genuinely adored it, but it was time to get rid of my car's health bar. Time for Destruction Derby. This mode does not have any tracks, it does have arenas. And can I just say, my word, this mode is mentally deranged. It is the most brain-dead thing I have ever played in my life, and I love it. Although I will say that at some points it might have gotten a bit too chaotic for my taste. I did play it multiple times, and I believe this is what being a mashed potato feels like. In case any of you were curious about the story and the lore of this game, the story is, here is a car, go drive into that car. The lore is, no really, go and drive into that car. In conclusion, this gave me the arcadey experience I really expected Jet Moto to give me, and while I can't tell you yet for sure, I can definitely see myself playing this in my free time outside of any content. Sometimes you just need to ram somebody. But enough of that, because I am about to introduce you to the father of the year.
Hey, time to load up on PlayStation games. Greatest hits are on sale. Crash Bandicoot, Jet Moto.
But I don't even have a PlayStation.
You do now.
Mom know about this?
Who?
PlayStation.
First of all, while this man might be father of the year, husband, not so much. I would definitely make him sleep on the couch. Now let's see what we are working with here. I am afraid that I do in fact recognize this woman. Lara Croft is just one of these concepts which you inevitably come across at some point in your life. And before any of you make any jokes here, it is not because of any 3D animations. She is just an icon in gaming. So that is going to be the next step we take. The original Tomb Raider, made by Core Designs and released in 1996. While I have never actually played any of the games from the Tomb Raider series, I of course have a vague idea of what it is about. You play as a woman who raids a tomb. I expect an action-adventure game that takes place in some ancient ruin. Just mere moments after booting up with the game, we are confronted with the first surprise.
It's hard to say exactly.
Lara Croft is British. No, all jokes aside, I actually did not know this. I actually thought the Brits stopped raiding tombs after Queen Victoria passed away, but it seems like we are learning all types of new things today. Our plot hook is fairly simple. The New Mexicans discovered an alien frozen in a popsicle. A rich woman tells Lara about an artifact, and we agree to get it. While we could just jump into the actual adventure, we get this cheeky little option available right here. Lara's house, which brings us to a mansion filled with random objects that serves as our tutorial area. The first thing I immediately noticed, this game has tank controls. For those unaware, that means that you can not move around in the 3D space the same way we do in modern games. You have to turn around on the spot in order to switch directions. And I know that this game is old, I will respect that, but I just want to say real quick that having to use tank controls for parkour is about as good as having to use an actual tank for parkour. It will be very interesting to see how this will play out during actual gameplay scenarios. Speaking of which, let's talk about the actual tomb raiding in this Tomb Raider. A cheeky little cutscene shows us moving through Peru with a tour guide. We unlock a door and suddenly a bunch of dogs spawn. This introduces us to one of Lara's hidden abilities, gun. They eat our tour guide and we enter the tomb. And I will have to say, it did not take long for me to actually get used to the tank control movement. It is not perfect by modern standards, but still absolutely playable. What I will complain about, however, is the camera. Again, this game is old, so I will not blame the developers for anything, but I will have to be honest, it is just slightly annoying. Trying to navigate tight spaces specifically turns into a rather uncomfortable affair. I really appreciate the view on the pyramids, Lara, but we are in Latin America right now. I really need you to pull the lever on the wall. It is not a major issue, however. The core gameplay loop of this is actually very enjoyable. You make your way through individual levels, you need to explore them, find secret doors, solve puzzles to unlock secret doors, find keys or items to unlock secret doors, pull out secret doors to walk into the hole. You are going to find highly valuable loot. Remnants of the ancient Latina civilization, like medikits, large medikits, and some magnum. I don't think that they are referring to the ice cream, however. Although that would not even be too shocking to be fair, just minutes ago we were playing as a Dorito man and a Mountain Dew woman. Areas are absolutely covered in platforming segments too, which is very satisfying actually, and every now and then a combat encounter with the local subterranean wildlife. And sometimes you have to do all of these things underwater. And getting lost, of course. Getting lost seems to be an integral part of the Tomb Raider experience. And I am not being sarcastic, by the way, on any of this. The game is genuinely very fun and fairly challenging too. Sometimes you will die because of things you did not expect, could not see, or really for no reason at all. Sometimes you will pass by the same area 3 times before finding its secret. The weakest aspect of the game, and the only thing that I really don't like, is the combat, in my opinion. Combat encounters in this game just seem a bit unnecessary and just another way to drain your health bar. And honestly, I consider the camera to be the most dangerous enemy I have encountered so far. At least that's what I was gonna put into the script, but then I got jumped by a couple of velociraptors. And then by a T-Rex. And honestly, after getting swallowed by apex predators from the Cretaceous period, I needed to take a little breather and rethink how I got here. I will say this game is actually very good, and the more I think about it, it is actually extremely good for how old it is. Realistically, this is an actual action-adventure game as we would know it from modern times, minus of course all of the modern controls and mechanics, but the foundation is the same. I will absolutely go ahead and finish this game after I have stomached the fact that I have just encountered a couple of dinosaurs. And now I absolutely do understand why the fella from the commercial was willing to have his marriage destroyed over this video game. Still, he's sleeping on the couch. But that still leaves us with the initial question. Old games good? Question mark? Is it more than nostalgia? Well, let me put it like this. I don't think that we have spent enough time inside of a 90s gamer to form a genuine opinion on all of this. When producing this video, I came across a list of every single PS1 game that sold more than 1 million units. It is 152 individual games. If anything, we have actually only gotten a tiny little taste of what the original PlayStation had to offer. Just going by all of this, it seems like our journey has just started and is yet to continue for quite a bit longer. So while I will thank you for being a part of this video so far, I do hope that you are going to accompany me for the rest of it as well. Subscribe to the channel and see you in the next video.
Stop looking at me. What's wrong with these people? Never see a Bandicoot before?